Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. And this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from You Thought You Knew. And here's her story, which is her reading her, it's an audio file, her reading her story. So here we go.
Hi, Ollie. It's You Thought You Knew again. I left a small donation and hope to donate more when I am employed full-time again. You did my first story, Pedophilia is Never Normal. That was just to give you a baseline for the sick and unhealthy habits of my maternal and paternal families. I know there is some kind of relation to the things I have gone through in my life. You cannot have a sick family history like that without it affecting you greatly. I'm actually breaking this up into two parts. I just want to add that in. I attached a small document including the narcissist sociopath's birth dates, her aliases, and other utilized names, as well as cities in the United States she has lived in. Maybe one day I will go public. I am just not there yet. Excuse me. Once it is out there, it is out there. I definitely do not want employers knowing all of my personal business. That's really it. Okay, so moving forward. I have been surrounded by narcs and sociopaths my whole life. I think I was more susceptible because my dad had serious narc asshole tendencies. It is imperative to start by exposing my sociopathic abusive niece. A lot of people have trouble with this, yet I can assure you she has been the sickest and most sociopathic person I have ever encountered. She truly is one of the most malignant, evil, sociopathic entities I have ever had the disservice.
This is your niece? Not doubting that she's any of this, but I mean, okay, well, let's listen. Because I would ask, I mean, how old is this girl that she has this kind of control if she's your niece? Let me...
of interacting with. The most recent no contact with her was my third and last attempt to go no contact. Third time is a charm.
With a niece?
As a side note, a lot of people downplay my sociopath niece, Queen Sheba, because they cannot fathom an aunt-niece relationship would be toxic. I chalk that up to cognitive dissonance. We are fairly close in age.
Oh, okay.
As a precursor, I will say my youngest sister, 11 years my elder, was my niece's mother. My sister has narc tendencies, yet not sophisticated. She is completely self-absorbed and does not care about anyone but herself. When she was a young woman, she married a crazy, sociopathic monster, and I am sure a lot of my niece's behavior was born around this time. Even though I think my sister is a jerk, she did not deserve getting the shit kicked out of her. So the point of this is probably where my narc niece, animals, started her sociopathy. Her abuse towards animals is not from my sister. This is why she is a sociopath.
So your niece is abusing animals. That is the mark of a sociopath, but that's a reaction to something. And you say your sister is an asshole and basically a borderline narc herself, but it's not her fault that her daughter's like this.
Okay, before I go into this part of the story, I just want to add that I was not present during this time because that sounds really creepy. I just heard about this story from my niece and also other people that were around her at this time. The first oddity I noticed about her early on was her extreme exhibitionism. It was always uncomfortable to me. She would walk around naked in her upper duplex apartment with the shades up and curtains open. She had to have attention at all times. The female neighbor next door complained about her doing this. Truly, if she was not the complete focus of attention, there was a problem, and still is. I could tell you countless stories of us going out to the club where she pranced around like a movie star and acted like I was her entourage. It was not much fun going out with her.
Yeah, it sounds like she's borderline personality disorder. I'm sure she's a destructive sociopathic monster. I mean, all her behaviors point towards that.
And she lost a lot of female friends because of it. She did this to other people too. I would classify her as a somatic type. She was always aesthetically pleasing and is absolutely obsessed with appearance. I believe she put her value in her vagina, as my sister did. She constantly had a string of boyfriends that would worship her. It was weird and creepy.
It was weird and creepy for men to chase her. You said you've made a few references to her looks, and you think it's weird and creepy that men would chase a hot girl, especially one that's flaunting it. It's pretty. I mean, weird and creepy on whose end? On her end or on their end? I don't know. You usually see good-looking single women being chased by guys. I don't know how creepy that is.
Early on, she was a little easier to be around. Yet as time went on, her evil ways and manipulation increased and was plain to see. I think this was because she was young and beautiful and had the world in her hands. Each year, she became more calculated, vindictive, cruel, manipulative, and evil. I really never understood it. Even though my sister is a witch, we both noticed her sociopathic behaviors, especially with animals, which is very hard for me to talk about since I absolutely love animals. Here's an example. Years ago, I stayed with her before I moved to New York City. She was terribly abusive to her lovely pitbull dog, Queenie. I know how you feel about pits. This was a sweet dog.
They're dangerous. They're time bombs. They're time bombs that want to eat you. They're gonna want to eat your face, or eat a baby's face. Like they're dangerous dogs. I'm sorry, I know, and it says a lot about people that want to walk around with these dangerous dogs. They're dangerous. I understand some of them can be very loving, but even the ones that are very loving, you hear stories of them turning just out of nowhere on they're dangerous. I mean, I had two pit bulls within a week charge at me. The second one almost bought it. Both times females they couldn't control them. They couldn't control them.
I used to lock the dog in a dark closet all day while she was at work. I always intervened when I could. So long story short, Sheba the bitch came home one day and let the dog out of the closet. The dog was happy to see her, who knows why, and she started wiggling her little stump tail. She dribbled urine. My niece proceeded to beat the dog with her fists and swear at her. Since I already had PTSD, I froze immediately. I should have done something, but I was paralyzed. I think I flashed back to my abusive marriage. Yes, nobody saw this bitch beating her innocent dog, but she was such a diva, wasn't she? Something in me snapped. I looked at her with the most crazy face you have ever seen and said, "If you ever touch that dog again, I'm going to do the exact same thing to you." And I meant it. Apparently, after I left her house, she was going to dump the dog off at the Humane Society, but another family member intervened and they found the dog a good home with an older lady who treated the dog well.
That is irresponsible. I'm sorry. That's irresponsible. Now you're taking an abused pit and giving it to an elderly woman. This is dangerous. And I'm going to be very honest with you here. I thought you knew. This sounds very, very bitchy on your end. And I have no doubt that this girl is a borderline monster. I have no doubt. Okay, but this sounds like competing girlfriends. This sounds like jealous sisters. That's what this sounds like. I mean, you've made multiple references to her looks. I mean, repeatedly. Taking an abused pit bull and then giving it to an elderly. If the bit is abused to the point where it's peeing, he's giving a loaded handgun to a child. To a child. And I know I'm gonna get like this pit, like you're pit ignorant. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I live in the ghetto here. I see what these dogs are. Don't no. I read the statistics of who gets mauled by what breed. It's pit bulls, and I don't hate them. But it's reality, and this is a channel where you got to deal with realities. And now you're taking an abused pit and giving it to an elderly woman. It should have went to the Humane Society.
I think something inside of her broke as a young person. I do not believe she was sexually abused, yet I could not bet the farm on it. Sometimes I wonder, though. Regardless, abuse is not an excuse to be a sociopath.
No.
I have to be honest, we had some really fun times. I think that is because she is such a thrill seeker. Years ago in my mid-20s, she would talk me into going out. She is 7 years younger than me. My mother gave birth to me at an older age, and my sister was a young mom. I suppose this should have been a red flag when she would not take no for an answer. That was a lack of seeing people's boundaries and a lack of me standing in my no. I stayed with her before I moved to New York, and once when I returned home. Now that I am more aware, I realize she always got me when I was more vulnerable and had shitty things going on in my life. That was a great way to put me down and exalt herself. She was always good with put-downs and digs. Another red flag. The level of manipulation and cruelty is hard to explain. She is very overt, yet some of her fake empathy is so covert, she makes Hitler look good. I used to believe her when she would rarely tell me she loved me.
As soon as you bring Hitler in, you lose. You're like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought you knew. This sounds like you're feuding with her. This sounds. I have no doubt she is borderline, but my concern here is your motives behind this. Is you're still competing with this. You're not writing into me. You're not sending me in here necessarily to expose her. You're writing. I feel like you're writing in here as part of the feud. I feel like this could be, and this is. I feel like this is very personal to you, and obviously it is. It's always personal. I feel like this is still part. You're fighting. This is part of you fighting the battle instead of being no contact and exposing.
Looking back, I wanted that family and love so badly. None of my sisters really cared about my welfare or wanted anything to do with me, unless I could give them something like money. I wanted to be a good aunt to my niece. She exploited that. I did get love from my mother.
But you weren't an aunt. You're 7 years older than her. You're basically an older sister or an older cousin. I mean, if you're trying to have this aunt relationship over somebody you're basically in the same generation as, I mean, you're looking at the relationship all wrong. Even though technically you're her aunt, okay, through genealogy or however whatever that's called, yeah, you're her first aunt. You're her natural aunt. You're 7 years older than her. Okay, you're basically an older sister. You can't have an aunt relationship. You don't have that type of experience to have an aunt relationship. An aunt's somebody who has about a generation and a half jump of life experience ahead of you. You can't have an aunt relationship with somebody you're 7 years older than. Call it what she is, an older sister, a younger sister, a younger friend. You're not really her aunt. You're technically her aunt.
Mother and father, yet there was so much dysfunction in my confused brain, so I took crumbs. Okay, more on levels of manipulation. Just quickly, her manipulation tactics were fake charm, always a star with her skimpy clothes, triangulation with everyone, shaming tactics and constant digs, love bombing when needed, always guilting you about things, putting various groups of people down, African Americans, welfare recipients, the guy at the gas station, lady at the bank, all to elevate herself. It got so old, exhausting. She once talked me into buying a bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream for some family barbecue or something. In the end, she took it for herself. I was mad because I had planned on drinking it with her. At that moment...
And this is an aunt relationship, an aunt-niece relationship? Not at all. How did she force you to buy her Bailey's? How does one force you to buy alcohol? Look, everything you're telling me here, you've known she's a user sociopath. None of this behavior should have surprised you. I think you wanted her to accept you as like that sister figure, what you thought is an aunt figure, and she never would. I think this is part of like the competition.
I really knew what she was. I think she took pleasure in this. I was really low on money at the time, so buying the Baileys was a stretch for me. I did not fight about the situation. I just knew I would not be around this bitch for much longer. I remember the smirk on her face. Previous no contacts. I had cut off my niece and sister twice before with no contact. Before I understood what it meant. It turns out I am a compassionate and empathic person like my mother, which has made me a target my entire life. Mom was not perfect, yet she sure as hell was never a narc. My mother went through hell on earth. It is hard for me to connect the dots because my mother raised all of her daughters mostly on her own. A few divorces in there. I am not sure where the narcissism originated.
A few divorces? There is a lot to your story that you are just brushing by, that you're willing to give people. Your mom's not a narc, but your sister is, and your niece is It seems like, if I had a guess here, you're protecting the source of all of this, which I am going to put my finger on right here and say it's your mother. The further away people get from your mother in your eyes, the bigger narcs they become. So I have to assume the opposite. I have to assume the source is your mother and you don't want to deal with this. It's not how it works. You don't get a little narcissism and then more, and then it's not how. There is a main source. And just how you tried to breeze by the multiple divorces. No. No. I think your mother set up a system in her family with you and her sister, and where you're all competing against each other. And I don't think it's stopped to this day. And you don't want to face the source, and the source is your mother. Well, I'll listen on.
Originates. When I returned to Milwaukee at 22, freshly divorced from an abusive monster, I guess I was good narc bait. Queen Sheba only needed me for what she could get. Yet foolishly, I thought we were having fun. We would go to the club dancing when we were both of age. Sometimes I would drive her somewhere if I had a working car. Sometimes I did not want to go out. She would say, "Come on, I'll buy you some drinks." She never would, and I would feel like an ass. There was her lies and
Yeah, she treated you like the friend, the break in case of emergency friend. Whenever she needed break glass in case of emergency. But you wanted more from her, I think. She was never going to give it to you. But this is far from any type of aunt-niece relationship here. There is nothing about that is an aunt-niece relationship.
Control. Her obsession with her looks was crazy and still is. Now I realize that it's all she's got. She has a good job in the finance industry since money and prestige is important to her. She's been driving fancy cars for as long as she could afford them, using men like bank cards and getting facials, cosmetic surgeries, and other tweaks for a long time now. Believe me, I am not jealous. Her life is empty. I cannot remember the last time she read a good book. She is more concerned with MAC makeup, straightening her teeth, and breast implants, a real hollow shell. Some of her favorite TV shows are My 600-Pound Life and Botched. Just want to add in here, I noticed.
Look, if you're at the point where you know what she's watching on TV, you're in a battle with this woman, and you're not accepting it. You're not accepting it. You know what she's driving. You repeatedly bring up her looks, and I get that because that's the narc. I mean, that's the narc borderline. They're all about outward appearance. I got it. But you're checklisting this stuff to the point now you're talking about what she watches on TV. You're not living your own life. You're not. You're in a battle with this woman. You're competing with this girl. And who set this up? Who set up this dynamic? Your mother. And that's what you're trying to shy away. You're trying to shy away from the source. Your niece isn't the problem. Your niece isn't the problem. You can't have... Mom's not a narc. Sister's kind of a narc. Daughter's a total sociopath. It doesn't work that way. Doesn't work that way. Not in this dynamic. No way, no how. You're attracting to narc, man. No. It all hones back to your mother. You're going to have to deal with that. You're going to have to face this reality. Your mother has set set it up so you do nothing but compete with other women, or mainly this one.
This really sounds like I'm just bashing. But I, as I was writing this,
you know, it's like, and you even know it. Like, you even know how this sounds. I'm not picking on you. I'm not. I'm trying to get you to realize what you're doing here. I got it. I completely believe you that the girl's a sociopath. But you are completely engaged with this woman. You are completely... she's got you. She's got you. You know what she's watching on TV. You've brought up her looks over and over and over again.
I was just trying to come up with examples of her sociopathy and her narcissism and the cruel things she did. So just want to add that in there.
Well, I get it. And she's borderline. She's capable of anything. It's going to be outward histrionics, outward sexuality, anything for attention. She'll think through her pussy. She'll use her pussy to get what she wants. That's who she is. You got it. So now sitting there naming over and over and over, we already know she's a borderline. That all comes in the package. Okay, cool. Now you're done. You don't have to catalog anything she does anymore. Now what do you do about it? Now you cut her out of your life. But she's not your real issue. She's one of them. She's the symptom. What's the source? What's the source?
She basically utilizes every narc tactic in the book. It would take too long to cover. Her favorites are, I know I said this before, digs, put-downs, invalidation, gaslighting, and confusing people. She especially likes making sick jokes in front of others to embarrass you. Even her new husband, who is a nice guy. After 3 years with her, he is defeated. She sucked all of the good energy from him. It was clear to me when I would visit, she had shit-talked me, and he no longer engaged me in conversation. It was always just hello and friendly talk, nothing else. More triangulations. I'm going to elaborate on the put-downs and...
It's what the borderline does to everybody they're married to. They suck the life out of everybody and everything. That's what they do.
Digs. Some of the put-downs, to me, your job is a piece of shit job. It was not. It was one of the first decent professional jobs I could land.
This is competition. Did you see this? You and this girl have been competing the entire time. This is competition, and you're still competing with her.
She did not want us on equal playing field. You are so flat-chested. That was when I was working out 6 days a week and 16% body fat. I don't know, it was really low. She talks bad about people of color, fat people, Mariah Carey, Beyonce, and on. Always talking bad about other women. It is sad, really. At some point, I will share the St. Louis story, yet that alone will take a long time to explain. That trip ended with me going no contact. I should have stayed no contact after that. At least I got some time with my grandniece and nephew. It was hard to leave them, but there was no choice. If I wanted to have a life. Fake jokes at your expense. One sick fake joke she used to do in front of people is she would bring up a time where I self-mutilated my neck. It was right after my mother died in 1997 and I could no longer handle the grief. I was disassociating and started picking at my neck until I had a hole in my neck. It was pretty horrible and I have not done it since. Fortunately, the doctors took care of it and said it was not the first time they had seen it. Can you imagine what a sick bitch to bring this up and make a joke of it? People used to look at her weird, like, what a sick individual for joking about something like that.
Well, obviously, I mean, it's a sick thing to joke about. She's a sociopath. So what do you do with it? What do you do about it now?
Okay, so I went into the Queen Sheba's narc rage and violence. I saw and heard her narc rage quite a few times. It was scary. It was usually when she could not keep up her fake narrative or mask. She broke a person's nose once. I bring this up because you can trace it. I'm not making this shit up. Classic example. She and her then current husband went to a local nightclub. While they were there, they ran into the husband's ex-girlfriend and her current boyfriend. Okay, so my niece's current husband at the time, his ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend. I hope you can follow that. So anyways, some words were exchanged and niece punched him straight in the nose and broke it.
Do you see how much detail you have on this chaos? To what end? To prove she's a sociopath? I got it. Okay, once you try to prove, you've already proved past the point, it then looks like you're obsessed with the girl. If this is a mother, if this is a relative, like a mother, a father, a direct parent, that's one thing. This is like a friendship battle that you're having here. This is two women that are competing. You could say you're not. You've been competing with this woman your entire life. Set up by your mother.
It is on record. She went to jail for it. I made a stupid, idiotic mistake of stealing a tube of lipstick once, and it follows me everywhere. I am not proud of this, but I would share it with anyone. Lapse of judgment. Sheba used to fight everywhere she went, like a man. This was in her young years. I once had to hold her back from beating up a girl for God knows what, and I kept thinking, my career will be over if I have to go to jail. That is a sociopath narc for you. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to break this up into two parts because it is just too long. The first part, the one that I just went over, is going to be the old days past, when I was younger with my niece. And then in part two, the following one that I will do is going to be after I resumed contact with my narc sociopathic niece 3 years ago when she and her brand new husband, or soon-to-be husband, relocated to a city in Wisconsin. And that's it. So I just want to say thanks, Ollie, so much for all you do. I'm a little bit, I like to watch all your videos, and I've learned so much from you and some of these other narc channels. I know I really, you have to use discernment because there's some interesting stuff out there. Anyhow, thank you so much and keep doing what you're doing. I've learned a lot from you, and I think that you've helped a lot of people. So thanks a lot.
Okay. Here's my concern, and I look forward to part two. Here's my concern, that you're not dealing with the source of all this. You are so ingrained in you're still in the battle. You're still battling. It just seems that way. It just seems like you're still in this battle. I don't know if you're no contact with her at this point. Okay? But how it's sounding right now is that you're not dealing with the source of the problem. Your niece didn't get like that in a vacuum, and neither did your sister. Okay? And to say your mother with multiple divorces has nothing to do with this, no. It goes it goes this way. It pulsates out. Doesn't go in, and it doesn't get stronger from the outside in. No. You're not dealing with the source of the problem, and that's your mother. You're still ingrained. You're still in it. You're still in this battle, I think, with this girl. I mean, the repeated, and I get it. She's a borderline. She's obsessed with her looks, just over and over and over again. That's who she is. You're proving past the point now. And that's where people are like, oof, this looks like it's an obsession. This looks like it's jealousy. And that you can't do. And to avoid doing that, you're going to have to deal with the source of all this. And that's in your past. And that's not her. So I hope that helps. Thank you for your contribution and your submission. I appreciate it. I look forward to part 2. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you guys. Without you, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.